All right. Hello, Amazon sellers. Welcome to this quick mini webinar. Tariffs, what to do. It is a huge situation out there. So we have Amazon expert Dave here to let you know kind of how to think about this and some potential strategies of what actions you can take right now. So, Dave, I'll kick it over to you as the logistics expert.
All right. All right. Thank you, Riley. Yeah, interesting situation that sellers have been dealing with. And so today we'll break down a few different approaches, some of our recommendations, and then at the end of the call, I'll give the link. We'll put the link if you want to do a consultation with me to discuss your specific situation. So let's dive into it. The thesis, the synopsis of what's going on, primarily for sellers that are sourcing from China, are dealing with some pretty massive tariffs, 125%. It's changed a lot over the course of the past few weeks, few months, and we don't see an exact light at the end of the tunnel. We don't know the exact timeline to when this stuff is going to change. And so Riley and I huddled up and we kind of talked through some of the different situations. What can sellers do? What should sellers do? So let's dive right into it. First thing, first note is just on sell through rate. And so one option is to just raise your prices a bit and give yourself a little bit more wiggle room on profit. Probably trim some of that PPC fat. Anything that's geared towards testing and growth, now may not be the time to prioritize it. And then this goal would just be to preserve your current inventory for as long as you can with the hopes that you can, outlast and the tariffs will come down by the time that you need to place your next PO. Not every seller will be in this situation. Some sellers, maybe you were in the position where you were just about to, make your purchase and you're running low on inventory and you're wondering, all right, what should I do? So we have some other options for those scenarios too. But if you have inventory that you're sitting on, it's already stateside and you have some healthy margins, one good strategy would just be, you know, let that sell through at a little bit slower pace, a little bit higher margin without compromising your velocity. Make sure that your ranking stays healthy. That's important. So the other theory, and this one's a little bit more complicated, definitely not for the faint of heart, but the other concept is just eat the tariffs for now, stay on track, business as usual, and just figure out the best way financially to deal with it. So let's walk through this because this is a little bit more of a breakdown. It's a little bit more complicated. So first things first, on average, we see most Amazon sellers that source from China, their cost of goods is around 20%. Some of them a little bit lower, some of them a little higher, but it usually weights out to be around 10 to 20% of their final sales price on Amazon. So if you're buying a product from China for $2, that's your landed cost, then you would sell it for $10 at your final sales price. That conceptually is what a 20% cost of goods is. And so now, assuming 125% tariff coming from China, let's say you're buying your product for $2, that 125% is putting you at almost $5, right? So your cost of goods is now almost 50% of your sales price of your revenue. And so knowing this, and that knowing that most sellers that source from China typically keep between 3 and 6 months of inventory on hand, whether it's at Amazon's warehouses or at a 3PL in the United States. Um, Instead of taking that 3 months of inventory and trying to stretch it and make it last until the trade war is over, which we don't really know when that will be. Um, this idea is to keep up the current velocity, place your POs as you normally would, and then in the second step, we'll talk about how we trickle that down to the bottom line. But no matter which way you cut this cookie, profits are going to be a little bit tighter unless we make some major changes to our actual sales price, which isn't the best option. But this is the balancing act that we're going to have to play to deal with this puzzle. So
Mhm.
next, going down here and saying, all right, let's not try to make this inventory last and stretch it out. View your current order and your next PO from China is from a financial perspective, view that as an average cost of goods percentage, which would wait to be around 35%, assuming that you have 3 to 6 months coverage and you're going to buy another 3 to 6 months coverage. So you're buying the same amount of inventory. So let's say you have 20% COGS on your current inventory, and then your future purchase is going to be a 50% COGS. So weighted COGS is around 35%. And this is all assuming that we make no changes to the sales price, right? And I think right now that's going to be the biggest lever that we can pull to maintain rankings, make sure we don't go out of stock, and also make sure that, our bank accounts, our coffers don't run dry, right? Um, so with the tariffs, most likely we're going to see prices go up across the board, especially in categories where all the top selling products are made in China. So brands that have US manufacturing, local manufacturing with healthy margins and scale will probably emerge a little bit stronger out of this. And the brands that source from China are most likely going to have to pivot unless we see China and the United States come to an agreement that works for sellers, right? And so also categories where the cost of goods is really high, I think that's going to see the most shakeup, the most turbulence, like air purifiers, for example. If you're used to, sourcing a high-tech air purifier from China for, $35, you're going to be in rough shape, right? Because that's a major change to cost of goods. And, a product like that is not, as elastic or as inelastic as a necessity product where people are going to buy it. And if the price goes up, like eggs, right? People will still buy it, but people don't need air purifiers. So the cheaper products as well, toys and games, anything that's only being sourced for a few dollars per unit from China is probably going to see less of an impact compared to some of these really high cost of goods niches. And last thing on this topic, right? Keep in mind, you are not the only seller in this situation. You're not the only brand in this situation. All the other sellers in your category that manufacture from China, that have stuff coming out of Shenzhen, they're all dealing with the same puzzle. And so some guys are going to take more risk. Some guys are going to have a longer term vision and just really wait it out. So you just have to come to terms with what is your risk tolerance? What is your business situation? And do you want to use this to your advantage to try to actually gain ground on your competitor? So that's kind of the eat it and wait and kind of sit on it method. It's not the best, right? It's not the most ideal margin wise, but it is very important to consider it because the last thing you want to do is go out of stock. And also the last thing you want to do is cut your velocity because if you make that inventory last 12 months, that means you're selling half as much. So a couple more suggestions for everybody. If you're sourcing in China right now, first thing to look is go over to ThomasNet, look at some US-based suppliers, see if there's even an option within your niche, if you can find some local suppliers and get some quotes, right? Shop around and do the math and break out what it's going to cost, see what their MOQs are, see what their lead time is, and just begin, sourcing those relationships. And then, so we've got some information here about more online supplier and manufacturing directories, more than just ThomasNet. So we'll give this resource as well. There's a lot of other places to look outside of China for manufacturers. Then some more strategies that you can do to find suppliers in the US. You can just go straight to Google, right? Just use Google, whatever your keyword is on your product. You can do Google Map searches, all that stuff. You can look at like industry associations if you're within an industry like fragrance, plastics, things like that. They aggregate some of that data. Then obviously things like YouTube, social media, trade shows, expos. There's a lot of different ways to connect. The best thing is just be vocal about your situation. It's like, hey, I'm a PVC pipe supplier in Utah. I used to source in China, but now I'm out of luck. I'm in trouble. people will gravitate towards that and point you in the right direction. But the best thing is like to not be quiet about it and just say, I need some help. Um, and then,
Yeah.
as you know,
All,
more than just tariffs.
Mexico as well. It's looking like it's going to be pretty favorable rates from Mexico. There's probably going to be I mean, it's already been going on for a long time, the Mexico manufacturing boom, but I think that's going to even get bigger.
Yeah, I don't know if ThomasNet has Mexico manufacturers on there, but I believe that a couple of these other sites you can look at Mexico. So um,
Yeah.
that should be a good one to look at. And then we've got some more information here that you can read from Carbon 6. There's a calculator. It's very interesting content that they put out. As well, we were discussing on transshipping. Transshipping is essentially where uh, if you sourced a product in China, but you assemble it and you assemble it in a meaningful way in another country. So say, for example, you have a product that's like a clock and you assemble the gears and the face of the clock and the metal pieces in Vietnam, but the actual individual pieces are produced in China, you can transship that to another country. So you transship the raw materials to Vietnam, for example, they assemble it, and then it's not a made in China good, it's a made in Vietnam. This is a little bit tricky and doesn't work for every situation. So if you are interested in discussing that more, I would recommend doing a consulting call with us to make sure that um, you avoid any legal issues or whatever, because transshipping needs to be done right, it needs to be done properly.
Yep. Yeah, overall in business, there's no one size fits all. You gotta see all the different levers, your financial situation, your inventory situation, your cash flow, and your business goals. And then, yeah, like a football game, assess all the variables and then call your play and do it. So, um, yeah, leave a comment if you have a question or reach out to Dave. You want people to email you, Dave, or what?
Yep, you can email me, but also if you want to consult with us, I'm going to put the link in here, um, and we'll share out this resource. On top of that, you can reach out to me, Dave at Amazing Marketing Co. And if you want to book a consultation with me, the link is here, and the link will also be in my email whenever I respond to anyone.
Nice. Cool, cool. Any final thoughts, recaps, or anything before I bounce to my paddle match in 2 minutes?
No, I think that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, have fun. I'll try. I was gonna try paddle next month. There's a big CPG event on April
Ooh.
4th, or no, May 15th in Austin. Like
Mm.
huge one, hosted by like a community of like 30,000 consumer products
Is
businesses.
it startup CPG?
Startup CPG, yeah, yeah,
Are
startup
you in there?
CPG.
I'm in there.
I'm in there too. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a great one. Yeah,
I
maybe
love it.
next time let's do a long webinar on CPG Amazon strategy. We could
Yeah.
update
So
that
I
one.
went through all of the 1000X leads, that document. I went through it like 3 times. And so I have my notes as well too on just all the ideas for like videos,
Yep.
content, and stuff like that.
All right,
So
sweet. Yeah. We'll put together a master video next time. All
nice.
right.